So the great Quentin Tarantino just released a book, and he's been doing the podcast circuit. Yo, Quentin Tarantino, my man, you got to come rock with me at the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast. I got to find out who your PR person is. I know we will have a great time. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan, and I'm so honored and privileged to have even been a part of a film that you wrote. True Romance is the first script that Quentin Tarantino ever sold, before Reservoir Dogs, before Natural Born Killers. And me and Quentin Tarantino were at the Sundance Film Festival. I believe it was 1992. I'm almost 100% sure it was 1992. Might have been 93. I don't fact check. He was there for Reservoir Dogs. I was there for Zebrad. I met him that week, and all the hype that was on him, and all the hype that continued when Reservoir Dogs came out, and then of course Natural Born Killers came out, and then True Romance was getting made. I would love to have Quentin on the I Am Rapaport Stereo Podcast. I gotta make that happen. I have to make that happen. But Quentin, on one of these podcasts, said two things that have gotten people upset, offended, and then another thing that I want to discuss with him because I don't agree with him totally. So the first thing that Quentin Tarantino said that some people were offended by is that these DC movies, these DC Marvel movies, I don't know if they're the same or different. It's a different brand. DC Marvel, Marvel DC, these superhero movies that, number one, they're bad cinema. Number two, specifically, he said that those movies don't make stars and they don't need stars to be in them. And I totally agree. Listen, when Batman first came out and Michael Keaton was Batman, it's a different time. And they weren't making 56 DC Marvel movies a year. Now, this is all they make. This is all that people go to see. This is all that you can guarantee box office business is these big, what are they, comic books? Are these comic books? I don't know if they're comic books. They started from comic books. I never rock with DC more. I don't do Superman. I don't do Spider-Man. Hong Kong Phooey was my guy. Underdog was my guy, but that's because it was the only thing on. I don't do, no disrespect, Black Panther, Captain America, what are these? Ant-Man. What are the other ones? Iron Man. The last one I went to go see was Iron Man with the great Robert Downey Jr. I had no idea what was going on. I went to go see Batman with Heath Ledger. I saw the Joker, which didn't count because that wasn't I don't rock with I don't know what's going on. I can't make heads or tails when I watch these movies. Spider-Man. But Quentin said that these movies don't need movie stars because Captain America is the star. Thor is the star. The Incredible Hulk is the star. Superman is the star. Spider-Man is the star. The Black Panther is the star. Of course, Chadwick Boseman was a star. The late, great Chadwick Boseman was a star. And he brought so much to that film. And not to diminish what any of these actors, or the three guys that have played Spider-Man, have brought to the parts. But essentially, and again, I mean no disrespect to any of these actors, whether it's the late, great Chadwick Boseman or any of the people that have played in any of these films. You don't need a star to play Thor. You don't need a star to play the Hulk. You need good actors, but essentially you don't need big names in there because people are going to go see them whether they're good or not, just to go see Batman fly and Spider-Man shoot his web and Black Panther do what he does and Superman climb buildings. And I agree with him. Again, I'm not diminishing the talents of the actors that have portrayed any of these parts. But Quentin also said, because he's got this podcast, and he said it a few times. He's been saying this. It's not the first time he said it. But he knows cinema. Listen, I would never try to debate. Well, I would debate this particular subject, but I'm not on the same level of cinematic history, knowledge, and movie consumption. This dude is literally a Google search, straight up. You can ask him about 99.9. I'd like to see him be on Movie Jeopardy. I'd like to see him and Martin Scorsese on Movie Jeopardy and some other directors for charity. That would be dope. I don't know, like Paul Thomas Anderson, Martin Scorsese, and Quentin Tarantino play Movie Jeopardy for charity. That would be sick. And I'm sure there's plenty of other, Steven Spielberg, whatever. There's other directors that are like that. But Quentin in particular, if you ask him about a movie, he's going to know who's in it, who directed it, who shot it, everything about it, top to bottom. But he talked about how cinema right now sucks. Totally agree. We're coming to the end of the year. Can't tell me this has been a good year. You can't tell me it's been a good last few years because of for movies. A lot of it has to do with streaming, but it's been a long time coming that they've been dipping. A lot of it has to do with streaming. But he also said that right now is the worst period in time for movies since the 80s. He thinks the 80s was a terrible decade for movies. And it got me thinking, because first I was like, yeah, they suck. And then I started looking up 80s movies. And I have to say, to the great Quentin Tarantino, I do not agree with you on the 80s being a bad decade for films. I think that there were so many great films. I think there was a broad spectrum of great films. Yes, some of them were glossier. Yes, some of them weren't good, but not every movie in the 70s or the mid to late 60s was good. There was a whole different genre of films being made. And when I started looking at the films of the 80s, the great films of the 80s, the film that won Best Picture in 1980 to start things off is one of my favorite movies ever made. And in my opinion, the best movie top to bottom, cinematically speaking, where it's checking all the box. Raging Bull, 1980. And then the decade alone for what Woody Allen did. He made so many great films throughout the 80s. But just to rattle off some films from the 80s, Once Upon a Time in America, The Outsiders, The Lost Boys, Roxanne, Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket came out in the 80s. Blue Velvet, David Lynch classic. Different kind of movies started coming. When Harry Met Sally, St. Elmo's Fire. That's not my thing. Risky Business, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Just those three alone, along with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know what the genre of films you'd refer to. Those are teen movies, teen romantic movies, coming of age films. But those movies came to life during the 80s. Those are those four right there, The Breakfast Club, Risky Business, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off all came in the 80s. Funny comedies, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Then you had thrillers, a whole new kind of glossy kind of film. Fatal Attraction is in the 80s. Dead Poets Society. This is not my favorite film, but some people would say Dead Poets Society, they'd have that in their top 10. You got other films, Amadeus. Another great teen film, 16 Candles. This isn't a perfect film. This is a dope film. The Untouchables. Rain Man. Scorsese had a fantastic decade. He also put out The King of Comedy. Hold on. And then, like I said, the Woody Allen films alone, Purple Rose of Cairo, Broadway Danny Rose, Radio Days, Stardust Memories, Moonstruck, New York Stories, Tootsie, love Tootsie. All these, The Big Chill, all these films came out during the 80s. Prissy's Honor, Blood Simple, brought to life the Coen brothers. There's tons, and I'm just naming a few. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of Something Wild. There's so many great films in the 80s. I must say that I would love to publicly have this conversation with the great Quentin Tarantino, and I'm sure he would manipulate and somehow make me believe him. And I'm sure there's a lot of films in the 80s that he loves, and I'm sure there's got to be some science and number crunching that goes into why he thinks the 80s as a decade sucks. But those movies alone, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. That is not bad. Like I said, not every movie in the 70s was dope, and not every movie in the late 60s and the into the mid 60s was great either. So I just wanted to articulate that I think the late 80s, I just wanted to articulate that I think the 80s alone was a great, underappreciated, underrated decade for movies, top to bottom. Do the Right Thing. 1989. The Summer. Get Down. Sickety. Sound of the Funky Drummer. That was 1989. You can't say that the 80s is not a dope decade for movies. Anyway, I'm done.